We are live.
We are.
Everybody, welcome to BioBridge, where we talk about connecting Japan and the rest of the world in the life sciences. It can be anything from biopharma to medtech to devices, anything that has to do with life sciences, we will talk about. But it has to have something to do with Japan and connecting Japan to the rest of the world. And today, we have a good friend of mine. We've known each other maybe from a year ago. We can say it's an anniversary. It is right around this time that I met Helene Moore, founder and CEO of PharmBD, and what we call a seasoned professional in the licensing and business development area in the life sciences. So, Helene, hello.
Hi, you can only say that and proving it with the white hair. No. Seasoned is like salt and pepper.
Well, I really wanted to. Very glad to have you on. Last week we had another BD person from Japan, but this time we're looking at it from the other side of the Pacific. So we have Helene, and not only from the North American perspective, we also have, you also have a lot of experience in Europe. So I thought it'd be great to have you on and possibly come up with new aspects that we haven't thought of before.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Tetsu. It's a pleasure, as always.
Absolutely. We've had lots of fun at Bio Japan last year. I know you're going again this year.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you to where you are, from your studies, or I don't know, anything you think is relevant to the discussion today.
So I can maybe try to summarize this because
yes,
the last thing we want to talk about is me, but I spent my career in life science. I'm a biochemist by training, always loved the science. So I studied it, but then I realized that I wanted to actually do something with it, but not quite research. So quite fast, I went into pharma and I started there with Bayer Canada. And I spent 11 years there. And I actually learned a lot about transforming an innovation into economic value because I was in the commercial side. I carried the bag. I was a sales rep to start with. And then I went to the head office and I did all sorts of like commercial positions, sales, marketing, sales force effectiveness. As you mentioned a little bit, my family situation got me to travel around the world, and we had the chance to move to Europe with the kids and everything. And then I did reinvent myself quite a few times in my career. I landed at some point in business development. And what I mean by business development is like licensing deals in pharma. So matching biotech innovation with the bigger pharmaceuticals that are looking to fill their pipeline. And I loved BD because it matches three skills that I really think are like so complementary in life science. The first one is the science. The second one is to be able to assess the potential, the economic potential of something, forecasting, addressable market access, who's going to pay for this, all these things that I made my head when I was commercial. And the last one is the legal part. So there's like the science, the finance, commercial, and the legal part, which I had to learn because I had no clue about that.
Of course.
And I really enjoyed that. So I decided in 2017 to start my own business to help. After I did some few deals in corporate capacity, I started to help my clients to do business development deals. So I'm a matchmaker and a deal maker, if you can say that. Came back to Canada after many years abroad in France and in Germany. Last year, I came back to Quebec and I started my business again. So I closed it in Europe, started it in Quebec.
Last year?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was much longer than that. Okay. So you came back to Montreal.
Yeah, and I knew nobody. So I had to...
You knew me. You met me.
Yeah. Yes. Isn't that enough?
Blowing my own horn.
But it was something because coming back to Quebec after so long, I had to redo my network, get to understand who does what, what's going on in the ecosystem, and it was a pleasure. And so now I can say I don't know a lot, everything, but I'm starting to be able to place the chess, play for the Quebec and Canadian ecosystem. One thing that also is special is that my husband works in Japan, and now as part of this, I spend 49% of my time in Japan,
That's right.
in
Okay.
Tokyo, and then the rest of the time here in Quebec. And that led me to start to build business relationships in Japan and to better understand how BD is done and how investment is done, because I'm also an angel investor with Ange Quebec, on the board of Ange Quebec, and also working with VCs here in Canada, but also now in Japan. And so I got to learn that other aspect, that piece of the puzzle of life science, which is not as much BD and licensing, but all the fundraising and all the entrepreneurship aspect, which was not foreign to me, because when I was in Europe, I did start few companies there as an entrepreneur. Now I'm more on the investor side. And so now I'm having just a blast, really. And I'm trying to help companies here from Quebec. And I'm so happy to be able to provide like support and help as a consultant, and then match Quebec and Japan, which I think is a really good access to develop some very good atome crochu, if I can say in good English, but good potential from a cultural perspective, but not without its challenges, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I guess I knew you a little bit. Now I know much more, and it's just impressive. The body of experience. You haven't even talked about the companies that you've worked at, the big pharmas, but definitely we can learn a lot from you. And so jumping right in today, let's start with the fact that you spent 51% of your time in Montreal and 49% in Japan or elsewhere, right? And from your past experience, what would you say is like the number one thing that's different between Japan and I guess North America and Europe? If there's like a lot of difference between Europe and Montreal, then I guess that can be discussed separately. But definitely North American or Western style versus the Eastern style.
I think that the one word that comes to my mind is pace.
Okay, that's a soft way of saying slow.
Yes, but there's some good reasons behind that, and I get to understand and appreciate sometimes how slow can be better in the long run.
Right.
Okay. However, unfortunately for some Japanese investors or incubators, this space that is very unique to the Japanese corporate culture and investment culture is actually, there's a price that they're paying for that, because in 2025, pace is just like everybody's on the freaking treadmill, like very, very fast running. And so now Japan already has this lag in terms of drug approval, and this is a result of many years of conservatism and risk assessment and regulatory barriers. But now we see that of course there's some regulatory efforts that are made to close that gap or narrow the gap, but there's other variables that are not helping the Japanese ecosystem to catch up, one of which is AI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I was thinking about this moment that we would spend together, and what can I say that's not that smart? Because I was like, pace, everybody knows, everybody says that.
Well,
Okay. It's,
well, it's one thing to sort of know it, and it's another to actually live it.
yeah. And so, but I got to understand a little bit of the nuance of the reasons why. And sometimes when you understand that better, it's easier to navigate it and facilitate a deal in the process. One of the observation I've made from the investment side is that, you know, when an angel investor or a VC will look at a new innovation, and the question they have in mind is like, am I going to invest in that new startup? The criteria, again, you know, I like to put things in rules of three, but usually you look at three main things about that startup. The first one is the science, of course. It has to be good. It has to be disruptive. It has to be solid, replicable, like and you need to be trusting that science. The second one is, of course, the dollar sign, economic value, addressable market. Like, is this company in a good start financially as well? Do they have their mind wrap around how they're gonna raise? Like, does that make sense? Can I create economic value? Can I exit? You know.
Yeah.
The third one is, what do you think?
The third one, well, you've got
So
the
you've got the science.
technology, and then I've got the money. The
Yeah,
third is, I would say, the people.
the people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tetsu. Exactly. And if you look at the people, like for me as an investor, it's the most important pillar. I'm investing in people, in entrepreneurs. VCs are also here in North America, if very diligent around, you know, meeting the CEO in real, making sure that this core team that they're talking to, usually, you know, like between 2 to 5%, the rest are advisors on a slide most of the time. These people are aligned, they're agile, they are able to be they're coachable, they can pivot if things don't go well. This is something you need to spend time assessing. My experience with the Japanese investment ecosystem is that everything is about what? The science.
Mhm.
There's a lot of emphasis put on the science, and to be able to replicate the science, to dig into a due diligence where you're going to spend like months reading paper around this science. But
Right.
not as much time will be spent on the people.
I see.
And of course, market, like they're looking at regulatory pathways that, you know, so that's very good. But I find that people is not as important in the criteria. And this is me just having discussions with VCs in Japan, and I'm like, oh, like,
Really?
yeah.
So you think Japanese investors or Japanese pharma, they don't look at the people quite as much, as opposed to they put more emphasis on the technical stuff, the science and the regulatory process or the clinical development plan. That's
That's my reading. You know, I can be totally wrong, but that's my observation.
it, my thought on that is they take probably more time at the beginning to do the technical stuff. But
Mm.
overall, like you said, the work pace, like the
Yeah,
pace in Japan is longer.
yeah,
And I often, I find that they want to first know if your product is good, it meets a certain threshold of goodness. But beyond that, they're looking at the person. They're looking at not necessarily on communication skills or what, but more like are they in it for the long run? Are
mhm.
they in this deal with mutual benefit in mind? That kind of things. I thought Japanese companies look at a lot, and that's not your experience.
I think it's not something they oversee,
Okay.
but my experience is that the attention for VCs, so I'm not talking about BD deals because this is another story when
Okay.
you have an asset and like you're making like a licensing deals, because the I don't know, but for VCs looking at technology, I've heard, you know, some investors saying, oh, or incubators saying we need to replicate 100% of the science before we decide if we're taking on this
Mhm.
venture, this seed. So the money is spent on replicating the science. But if there's one country in the world where I would trust the science,
Mhm.
it's in Japan.
Well, yeah.
I think the science is really, really strong, and the challenge comes when it's time to send a young CEO to sell their asset at Bio International. This is when it's they need coaching. This is when they need to be like surrounded. They need to have like how do you pitch, how do you this and that. I
All the
didn't
non-scientific
practice
stuff,
that as much.
all the non-scientific skills.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
I it's a conundrum. I don't know. It's a mystery. Like Japanese people know that they need that, but
Mhm.
but they still feel that they don't have time to dedicate to the communication skill side, the soft side.
Mhm.
Still feel like they have to get that science from 95 to 96% to 96 to 97%, more than like just spend a few percent of that, work on your presentation skills. Could go even further than the marginal benefit you'll get from making your product that much better, that little bit more better. Yeah, I mean, but at least we know that if it comes from Japan, like you say, chances are the science is top notch.
Yeah.
They invest a lot of time in that.
Exactly. So that's very positive. So for me, I would always spend more time on the two other variables, looking at something, because not that I would oversee the science, of
No.
course, but I would have a little bit of a positive bias against the science developed in Japan. Of they're so rigorous, they're so attentionate about everything, and yes, you're right. So this is something that I have observed, but my experience working in Japan has only been like a certain time span.
Mhm.
Maybe my observation is biased, and I'm wrong, and I hope so.
Have you had a chance to see, like, interact with Japanese startups, like very very early seed, we even like just the technology at a university lab.
Not as much. I have more experience interacting with investors.
Okay.
And interestingly, a lot of Japanese VCs want to invest in foreign companies. They want to diversify. So basically, this leads me to not seeing so many seeds from Japan.
Mm.
And also, I need to share with you when I started to work in Japan, I really like to do out licensing to help a biotech to sell their asset. This is my favorite part. And I thought, oh, I'm going to help some biotechs to out license their assets globally. But the need is not that. The need is for Japanese companies to in license from around the world. So, of course, I go with the demand, which led me to have this interaction with bigger companies and investors. However, I'm so happy because this year at Bio Japan, I will have the chance to meet some ventures and seeds when we go to some of the roadshow with the Quebec delegation. So
Yes.
I'm hoping to meet young investors, young Japanese wolf,
Yeah.
ready to go out the gate and sell their innovation and raise money. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm also
Yeah.
very keen on bringing up Japanese startups, bring them over,
Yeah.
get them exposure to the U.S. investors, uh,
Hmm.
VCs and pharma. But yeah, I mean, you got to go deep. Like you're going to iPark. I've never been to iPark, but I'm also wanting to
Hmm.
go this year. I'm also quite interested in Fukuoka. I don't know if you know
No, I've never been.
as a it's a third I guess hub, scientific hub after Tokyo in the vicinities and uh, Osaka, Kobe, that surroundings.
Okay.
The next one is Fukuoka, and so it's an up and coming area. It's still the technology is great. There's Kyushu University, Fukuoka University, Kurume universities. There's quite a few good universities around that area, and it's a very they would call startup friendly environment. So
Hmm.
there's like accelerators, incubators, all those things are like as we speak, they're building more and more and new platforms, open innovation platforms and this type of program, that type of program from government programs to assist.
Hmm.
So so yeah, I'm talking to investors or incubators here
Yeah.
in the U.S., North America, to see if they'd be interested in going to Fukuoka.
So what needs to follow is investors also coming to Japan, and I think this is happening. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
and Ahmed program is one proof that they want to attract foreign investors,
Mhm.
and I'm very excited about that. I might work on a project
Really
to that. So for now,
great.
it's still confidential, but hopefully, can help to navigate that new opportunity for some companies wanting to come to Japan too. Some
Yeah,
foreign companies wanting to do R&D in Japan and benefit from the rigor, the science in Japan,
yes,
but also this opening from VCs that are accredited by AMED and get some good leverage there in terms of fundraising.
that's right. That's right. And all cross pollination is good. And
Yes.
like you say, Japan has a tremendous strength in science that it can definitely, I feel, benefit the foreign companies coming in. And the foreign companies have this entrepreneurial mindset, this risk taking or risk assessing.
Mm,
I think skills that are lacking in the Japanese counterparts. So
mm.
all this is great. You have an idea, I have an idea. We collaborate. We both have two ideas. That kind of
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
so it's fun. It's fun, and the more I talk about this, the more I do this. Obviously, I'm sort of creating a market for myself, working between Japan and the rest of the world. And this year, I'll be in Japan for about a month, a little over a month, from mid September. Starting with some events in Osaka, and then I'll be in Tokyo. I might even go to Korea for a little event over there. And I'll be at pharma BD conferences
Yeah.
and normal academic conferences. There's this ASCO, like the Japanese version of ASCO, which is right after the Bio Japan, the week after at the same place.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about going to that too, and I'll be representing also a few companies from the U.S.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so like yourself, I'm new, so you're like the big senpai to me. So I've got so
No.
much to
Yeah.
learn from you.
But when I see you evoluting in Japan, like you speak the language, much more about the culture. It's a lot to learn,
It is.
and it's fun. I really enjoy this. It's amazing, and I have a lot of respect for how they operate, how they see the business. It's challenging for me as a North American because we have been educated differently,
Mhm.
and so we're not as rigorous. We turn the corner much faster, and then we cut the corner as well sometimes. Of course, we do. But when you mix everything together, it makes for great opportunity to work
Yes.
together. So
Hmm.
I'm very excited about that. I think one of the other challenge I have witnessed is AI, and
Sure
um,
thing.
and so how conservative the approach is when it comes to innovation in Japan. And this was intuitive for me to say I think that they are behind in life science. And then I actually made a little bit of a research before we get together on this call, and I got like 400 sources that are showing that actually what the my AI got as a conclusion, and of course it's AI, so but they say like 3 to 5 years behind in terms of life science development when it comes at AI adoption. And this is because in Japan, there's not a lot of expertise yet. A lot of the expertise is in the US, so no expertise, no money, and then of course, the adoption by the doctors it might be a little bit slower because they're more conservative. So all that being said, there's still a little bit of a lag there. So there's a drug lag, but I think there's a little bit of an AI lag, and I can see it, I can observe it when I interact with my
Yes.
Japanese partners and counterparts. But this was kind of confirmed by my research, which is still, an AI research.
But
But
3 to 5 years, that's
yeah,
huge.
I think it's too much. I think my anthropic just, struggles a little. I think it's way too much, but
Yeah.
it's only 1 year in AI. It's a lot.
It's that's right. That's like
It's
3 to 5 years ago, we didn't even have ChatGPT, amongst the general public.
exactly.
Right.
And when you think about it, even like when you look at investors, and I'm interacting with VCs, and today VCs are now AI propulsed.
Mhm.
They have in their the best VCs. They only use AI. Like they just do it every day, and the analyst. So it's everywhere. It's not just in drug development, and
Of course.
because you do clinical trials,
Yep.
research, and everything. But so this kind of transversal inclusion of AI everywhere might seem to be a little bit lower or slower in Japan versus North America, and I do believe that it's true.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to see. I mean, intuitively, I thought Japanese people use AI a lot, but it's true that I haven't heard so many companies, startups with AI. I mean, there's a few. They're out there. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but yeah, and I had another thought about AI. But overall, how do you use AI in the business development? I guess the things that you do.
So I'm a consultant just like you, Tetsu,
Mhm.
and there's not one day that I don't use AI right now.
Mhm.
And I can do for clients in one day what I would do in 1 month
Yeah.
before. So I'm still learning. Okay. And I'm 53 years old. So I'm kind of that generation that doesn't have this natural skills for AI. So, but I think it's a duty to learn about it, to use it, to integrate it in my practice. How do I use it? I do a lot of research, but
Mhm.
I also triangulate information. So if I have an intuition about something, I will probe AI, and I will probe more than one to see if, like, it's consistently giving me the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I would also create some forecast and like projection for commercial potential for assets for my clients. And you can just challenge the AI on assumptions, and what would take you like 2 weeks to do will take 2 hours. So
Hmm.
the economic side of it is very, very powerful. And of course, on the legal side, I don't give legal advice because I'm not a lawyer. So let's be clear. But I do search a lot about, clause and legal advice, and that the AI will give me, so that strategically I'm kind of aligned with the spirit of the deal. And I use it as well. From a legal standpoint, I try to probe on best practice, like past cases, all these things that AI can search
By
the.
legal, you're not talking about IP. You're talking about
No, I'm talking about, I don't know. So let's say terms for that are going into a contract. So what would be the average term of a licensing deal when your asset has that type of, I don't know, features, or that type of IP? So I would give like a situation to the AI, and I would ask them to provide me with legal advices, but I'm just trying to learn from the AI. And so what kind of upfront would a company could hope on licensing their asset,
okay.
things like that. And the AI will search all the available public data on.
You don't use things like PitchBook or Byte
I
50.
don't have like, I don't pay for these tools anymore because AI can aggregate a lot of that. So when you kind of dedicate yourself to one, you kind of, I don't know, you have, now I like to open up, right? So yes, I use it for that a lot. So research, um, legal tips, legal past, decisions,
So
and forecasting.
wow, I can't do that yet. I still see myself just not a business development like yourself, like you're a real freelance business development person. You represent your client to talk to, do the terms and everything, right? I'm more of a matchmaker for
Okay.
now. I have my database of sellers on one
Mhm.
side. I've got a my network of buyers on the other, and I'm trying to just go
Yeah.
deeper and deeper, or wider and wider, and then go to events like Bio Japan, go to Japan physically and talk to folks. And then once I hear a buyer say, "Hey, I'm looking for this or that," and I go, "Oh, I know a
Yeah.
company," connect, and then it's really the company and the buyer that are discuss the
Yeah.
term. You would represent a company, but I wouldn't represent them. But I would be here to do communication management,
Yes.
advisory on both sides, to make
Yeah.
sure they have a chance of getting to the deal before they fight.
Well, that's also a little bit what I do, Tetsu, because when I work with a client, at the end of the day, I'm like a shadow.
Mhm.
Uh, the CEO or the VP of BD will do the negotiation, but I'm going to be behind and used as a soundboard. Let's say the CEO will send me a term sheet. What do you think, Helene? And then I will give my advice, my opinion, which is not a legal opinion, but oh, you should maybe your lawyer should look at this. I don't know about this one, and
Right.
then they go back. If they want me at the table, I'm a neutral voice, and I will always be happy to do it. But I'm very flexible that way. Usually, I like to be in the shadow and to be
Okay.
the person that facilitates everything, but is there to protect the interest of my client to optimize the value of their asset. Yeah.
Well, in that sense, you're not neutral per se. You are representing your clients
Yes. Yeah.
and
Of
discussing
course.
with the buyer.
Yes.
And
But
I'm
I'm more
a good client.
neutral than the client usually
Uh,
because the
oh
client.
yeah, yeah, of course, of
Yeah.
course. Sometimes I wonder, ideally, is it possible for me to represent both sides? Um, as if I'm friends with both sides, and I wish I think they will work well together, and then I'll take you know half of the commission from this side, half of the
Mm.
commission from this side, or something like that. Is what I'm thinking I could do potentially one
Yeah.
day.
Yes.
Um,
So it's.
have
I
you ever
think
had that experience?
so. I call this a double dipping consulting agreement, but
Or half and half. I mean, I'm not necessarily taking double.
yeah, it's possible that you are in a relationship with both parties, you match make them, and you
Yeah.
know you're going to get a success fee if they make a deal from both sides. I usually disclose that to both
Yeah,
sides.
of course, of
Yeah,
course.
and then I tend to be actually more neutral in that case,
In that, yeah,
right? So I will not try to pull on one side or the other, but honestly, if you are helping parties to do a win-win deal,
hmm,
it's going to be a neutral voice anyway because you want both sides to be happy, make money. It's
right.
not like a win-lose situation. If it
Exactly.
if it's that, it's a bad deal
That's
and it
right.
will
No,
not.
fully agree. Fully agree. I think that's the job of us in the middle, where we could sort of look at it with
Yeah.
a cooler mind, and try
Yes.
to be as objective as possible, and see the value from this perspective and the value from
Yeah.
this perspective, increasing the pie, so to speak. Right.
Yeah, yes. And sometimes you might challenge your client about something, and you say, like he wants a lot more money, but you're not sure if this would be a win-win in that case, or But at the end of the day, whatever advice I would give, the client makes their decision, and I will rally after that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's bring it back to Japan and
Yeah.
the rest of the world in a way. This type of thinking, this win-win or more capitalistic win-lose mindset. Do you see differences culturally between Japan and the U.S.? The aggressiveness of how you approach a deal, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that this is something I really love about Japan. I think they see a deal as a win-win and they think long term.
Yes.
And this makes for more genuine discussion and negotiation. Because if you really want to like just have your upfront and get your money now, and doesn't matter really if it works or not after, that's not the Japanese way at all. And so that I appreciate, because sometimes in North America you will have, or in Europe, the mercantile approach to deal making, or a little shorter term approach to deal making. I don't see that in Japan, and I like it. I like the fact that they are really looking at this for like it's like a mariage, it's like a wedding. You know, we're getting together for a long time. We might as well do it well, have a good deal that everybody's happy with, that we can explain to the successor without going, red face.
Successor. Yeah, wow, I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah, because oftentimes a deal in this industry it affects many subsequent successors, I guess, next generation of leaders that come up and take over. So wow,
Exactly.
yeah, that's true, because people say, yeah, how Japanese people look at a deal, or look at the counterpart in the deal, as through the lens of, are you here for mutual benefit? Like, are you here for the long run? Like, your thing is good. I've taken the time to assess it meets the criteria of goodness that our company looks for. But beyond that is you, the seller. Are you in it with mutual benefit in mind, with
Yeah.
long term in mind? And when it comes down to that, then the cost becomes a little secondary to the person. Maybe another deal is a little uh, more lucrative, but will stay with you because of you, the person.
Yeah. And now this is contrary to what I was saying at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm totally aligned with you. This is true. It's like that for like M&A and long-term deals. For VC investment, I still believe they look more at the technology
Mm-hmm.
rather than the CEO. Sometimes they don't even have a CEO in place. So I think this is just a little bit like second tier type of thinking. But when it comes to M&A, licensing deals, they are really going for the long run, and they're doing the wine and dine, and like you go drink sake, and all these things, because they want to, it's a high context culture, so they want to
Correct.
get to know you. And there's a book that's called Why Deals Fail.
Oh,
Have it in my library somewhere. But the main reason why deals fail, there's like overwhelmingly, is people. Is
yeah,
the fact that after the deal, either people change, or there's a clash in the culture of the two companies, and they cannot, get this going, and then the deal is a fail. Yeah.
totally, totally get it. It's much more relevant than people would, I think,
Yeah.
ascribe. The people aspect of success in our industry, it's
Mhm.
huge,
Yeah.
huge. Not just M&A, not just business development, even just more typical operations.
Yeah.
Like, I was running clinical studies in my past company as a CRO. Uh, some studies, they succeed because of the team, the people
Mhm.
in it, not the. I'm not talking about necessarily the skill level, the knowledge base, but really the leader, the project manager that's there, and how he or she interacts with the team, how they make communication smooth, escalations always timely. Uh, this kind of stuff speaks volumes. I
Mhm.
definitely the
Exactly.
people aspect.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the number one.
Yeah, even in deals, like you say, definitely. And let's sort of start to wrap up. It's already 40 minutes. Can you imagine? We've been
What? Oh my God.
I thought we'd try to finish by 15, 20 minutes. But no, we're going to have to start thinking about winding it down. And I'm thinking, what's the recent trends like do you see in the US, in Japan, or even some European? Like, I know nothing about Europe, but I'm quite interested. And I think I mentioned to you a bit earlier, I will be going to a conference in Denmark in October. But I'm hearing that European market does not have a lot of VCs, but or lots of startups, but it's all very concentrated in that area in Switzerland, Bern. in Zurich and that little piece. But U.S. trends, Japan trends. What are the big things to look for? Like you think?
Well, that's a good question, and I had the privilege to work in France for a startup. I
Okay.
was the general manager, the CEO of a startup that was belonging to a pharma. And my reading of the situation is that there's lots of innovation in Europe, and the governments are supporting it madly. The
Really?
problem, wait, but the problem, it doesn't translate into economic value as much as innovators would want, because there's a say that says the US will innovate and Europe will regulate. Okay.
Ooh, never heard that, but yeah, it makes total sense.
And in Europe, so basically I was working in digital therapeutics.
Okay.
That's where I made my class into like AI and like software as a medical device. And then they're in France and in Europe, they are really good at developing these tools. What they're not as good at is to integrate them into the healthcare system. And when you look at what the US is doing, they're doing it much faster.
Mm.
They're just much more agile into deploying things
Yeah.
into the market. Adoption cycles are faster. The hype cycle goes faster. Everything is accelerated.
But to
In
be fair,
Europe, the,
Europe is
yeah,
very companies,
yes.
countries.
So first of all, in Europe, they throw a lot of money to startups, but when it comes to approving it or getting it reimbursed, then the startups are going dry, and it's really, really difficult for them. So either they go to the US, or they fold, or they survive, but with a lot of struggles. So that's, to me, the main difference between the ecosystem is all the regulation, and not only the fact that they regulate, but there's 27 state members. So it's so fragmented. If you have
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
small win in Germany, doesn't mean that you'll have it in France.
Mm.
So it's extra complicated, huge market, educated, sophisticated market, but highly regulated, red tape to the bone. So it's hard. It's hard. So we love North America for that. Like there's like, bigger blocks to attack, and innovation is just more into the blood of people, and adopting it too. In Japan, it's like to me like a little bit of a unique situation where even like the innovators, all in life science per se, innovators were fed by big Japanese pharma
Mm.
VCs. Like this was just like direct blood flow from pharma to the innovators,
Mhm.
and then they would not need to go raise a lot from VCs. They would just go and then integrate healthcare system. It's not like this anymore. And so now we see popping VCs coming up, and the whole regulation aspect is pretty heavy too. But I feel like Japan has more potential than Europe to adopt something, because when you got it for all of Japan,
Mhm. Yes.
right? It's not fragmented like it is in Europe.
Indeed.
So basically, when I work with some clients right now and we're looking at the world as a market for disruptive innovations, I think Japan has the potential to surpass Europe when it comes to integration of innovations.
That's good to know. That's
That's my
definitely.
hope.
But you mentioned lots of innovations coming as spin-outs from pharma in Japan. Is that what
No,
you're saying?
what I'm saying is that pharma has been feeding innovation in Japan with
Okay.
money. Like,
Okay. Yes.
in,
Yes. Yes. They find a lab in whatever
yeah, and
university,
they
and then they feed it. Yes. Yes.
And so
Yes.
they do it less now, a little bit, still
Mhm.
more than, but there's a need for independent innovation to surge in Japan, and then the farmers will look into it and say, "I like this one. I don't like this one. I'm gonna invest or buy this one."
Way of sort of putting their tag on it to say, well, this is
Yeah.
mine, you know, coming out
Yes.
of the university, while it's
Because
still very
in North America, it's not like companies that are dictating in the how the innovation comes out. It's more the VCs and the innovators, and then pharma is shopping,
Yes.
then making deals. Now China is also very
That's
quick.
the whole different topic. That would
Yeah,
take another session, definitely.
I know. Yes. But they're on the ball on AI. They're also on the ball on investment and innovation in life science. So that's a bit of a threat for Japan. But also sometimes when you get your neighbor to that goes as fast, it could be a motivator. So I think
All
so.
right. Okay. Last question to wrap it up in a good tone. What's your, I guess, your number one advice for foreign companies going to Japan, and your number one advice for Japanese company trying to globalize?
Okay, so for the companies coming to Japan, I will say you need to break your premise and then open your mind to a different pace and a different way to do things. And if you do that, it's gonna be easier. If you try to do it your way and you're like your eagerness and it's not gonna work. It's not like it's just not.
So easy to say,
I
so
know.
hard to practice.
Yeah, you need to align your your chakras and chill. Uh, for Japanese innovators going abroad,
Yeah.
um, it's the opposite. So I would say surround yourself by foreign consultants and experts that will challenge you and help you to sell your innovation
Mhm.
in the world. And it's going to go well because they have a lot, but sometimes the communication is very factual and lacks the this whole emotional concept of selling.
Mhm.
So I would say that would be my advice.
Wow, that wraps it up beautifully. Well, thank you, Helene, for sharing your expertise, and we'll see you in Japan in a few weeks.
Yes, we'll do Bio Japan together.
Absolutely, we're gonna have a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I will be there. Anybody who's watching this right now or the recording, do reach out if we can meet in Japan or even a few days in Korea. That would be lots of fun just to connect and increase our network. Yeah, there you go. Merci, Hélène. Thank you very much.
True.
Let's have fun in Japan. And goodbye, everybody. For those who are wondering why Ibrahim is not here today, he had something else with his daughter. I think important for him to spend some time with his family. He's at a very special event today with his daughter. So let's give him a little break. But he will be back next week. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week. Bye bye.